got mail. Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K Now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next couple hours, along with Nick.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Gal is here.
Good morning, everybody.
Spence and Katie are out today, so we are here by our lonesome. Our number is 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And today's show is made possible by vMix Software and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. Last week, I did it. I mean, this is why it took me time to switch this morning. Since Facebook is tagging us, I wanted to make sure that it was because of the music, because of the intro. So what I did last week is I started streaming to Facebook after the intro was over, but I was recording it as we were speaking, and I did the same thing today. So last week we did not get tagged, and I'm going to see if this week we're going to get tagged, and if not, next week I'll try it with the music and see if they'll tag us, because Katie sent the license and everything seems to be okay, and it's interesting to do it like this. I'm just not used to all this switching, started now, start that, but it's fine. So, what happened this week? Anything out of the ordinary that anybody wants to mention?
From a computer IT perspective, no.
Personal? Car?
No fun projects. No, been a relatively mundane. Well, I guess a couple of weeks. I do need to cut the lawn at some point. We're getting to that time of the year here on the coast. I did go to the beach Friday. Oh, that was good.
Yeah, the weather
temperature were high. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a nice afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yep.
NC State won the ACC tournament.
NC State yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, won a bunch of money on them sports betting. So I mean, that's been good.
I mean, we were talking about it. I was talking with Nick about it for the show, and I don't see anything wrong with it. I don't know why people are against. And it helps with some social help out there. I mean, what am I talking? Programs, and it's nice.
Forget the social programs. The social program is that should always be the case with any tax, right?
Yeah.
It should go back to the community. That is just a way to appease those who are against. That's just politics.
Absolutely.
That should not be the reason. Let's put it that way.
It's not a reason. I mean, I'm not against it.
Yeah, those who are against it they're coming from the point of those who are hurt by it. But I think the problem is look, I mean, gambling in a way, right, has its issues.
Oh, I
right?
know.
But the problem itself isn't the gambling even. It's the marketing around it, right? It's the way it is okay. Okay. So in order to invest, right, a huge amount of money, there are uh, rules, there are laws, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which you need to answer to them before you even put a dime, right? And
Yeah.
start to invest. Even when investing starts to become more and more approachable, you still fill up, right? Sort of a questionnaire that 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 basically is attached to your filings, right? And says what type of investor are you and what are your goals. And later on, if you did something completely wrong, right? Or you were treated wrong, right? Somebody allowed you to invest in something that you shouldn't have access to, then there are laws in place to protect those either those who are getting the investment or those who are putting down the investment. With gambling, right? I mean, and there's no, there's nothing wrong with taking your entire savings, right? Nobody will be penalized about it except the person who made the mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And there is nothing, there is nothing there to stop and help you if you do not know how to judge your resources correct. And when those with addiction, right, they step into this, they do not have somebody on their shoulder telling them you shouldn't do that.
And
That's where against it comes, right? That and the history of gambling. But this online
yeah,
gambling is a bit different,
but
right?
but but I think you're forgetting one big part of it. These people that are addicts were doing it anyway in an illegal way.
Correct.
I agree. No, I agree. I'm just saying, right? That we shouldn't ever allow something just because the taxes on it are good. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, this is the same thing, I think, when it comes to marijuana. People are doing it anyway.
Yes, for
The state
sure.
should make it legal and collect something that will help programs. I mean,
For
it's
sure, for
yeah.
sure. And I think, I mean, to a degree, I think even every type of drug, right? It just needs to be uh, every type of drug has some benefit, right? Because remember, most of them were sort of developed, right? So there was something about it that made sense when it was made, when it was conceived, when it was used. Now, any abuse of use of anything, hey, even sugar, right, should be prevented, should be controlled. And part of the reason we need something that's called government, because we need a body that does not do something for profit, a body that thinks about general good, and the general good is determined by the democratic process, right? Which isn't perfect, right? We talked about it the
Yeah.
other day. Uh, it isn't perfect, but it sort of works in a sense, right? I won't go into it too
Yeah,
much,
we
but
don't need to get into that.
yeah, we don't need to go there. It's not like I'm trusting the government with googly eyes, but definitely just saying no because no is the easiest way to deal with it. That's usually that doesn't work, right? Not in the long term. It it
Yeah,
can work as as an immediate remedy, but it can't
it took.
actually fix a problem.
I mean,
So
finally it passed. It took
yeah,
years. I mean, they worked on it for a long time. People that wanted it, and I guess time will tell. But like I said, give it some time, and nobody will even
long
talk
as
about it.
taxes are being paid,
Yep.
right? Yeah, I think definitely. Let's have that.
All right, let's jump into technology.
Oh, what? Really?
Samsung 2024 OLED TV lineup will feature both QD-OLED and WOLED panels, making it harder for consumers to distinguish between the two technologies. The company announced 3 new series without specifying the panel types, but reports suggest that even within the S90D series, both QD-OLED and WOLED may be used. Samsung's decision to use both panel types is attributed to LG's display request not to position WOLED as inferior to QD-OLED. Now that I'm OLED'd out, Gal,
I do not
you
know
don't know
what
what I'm talking.
these.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I do not know what the acronyms mean. I
Yeah.
haven't. I know that QLED is just LED,
Right.
right? It's just Samsung branded LED.
Quantum dot. They
Yeah.
call them quantum dot LED. Yeah.
So they have now QD-OLED.
Yeah,
that's quantum dot OLED.
Yeah, but what does it mean?
No, that's not
That's what I do not know.
QLED. That's QD-OLED.
Quantum dot QD OLED.
Okay. So then they have WOLED.
I don't know what WOLED
Yeah,
is.
WOLED.
I'll say this: it's not necessarily related to picture technology. I watched a couple of sporting events this week in 4K. I have a 4K TV and I have a 4K Roku. But I don't really consume 4K content. I don't think in the realm of TV and film. I'm not a big stickler for quality. I do watch a lot of 720p content, and it doesn't really bother me. But watching sports in 4K with the higher refresh rate and the HDR support, I could tell a difference. Wasn't like earth shattering, but I it's the first time I've ever seen 4K content, and I was like, oh, this makes sense to watch in 4K because sports and how quickly everything is moving. It's very helpful when you've got a lot of fast motion. If you're able to watch that stuff in 4K, I thought that was interesting.
If you had 2 TVs next to each other, and one of them was your TV, and another one that could not produce that type of picture, would you would have bought the one that's higher?
Yeah, I mean, well, again, it depends on what you're trying to do. But for example, I don't remember Fox. It was Fox Sports had a game. I have YouTube TV with the 4K add-on, so they offer a couple of things in 4K. And what I did is I switched back and forth between regular Fox Sports and the 4K one, and it was just it was more crisp, and motion blur is not the right word to use it. It was just smoother in 4K than it was in regular 1080p. 1080p still looked great. I mean, it was still a very, very suitable, great watching experience. If I had to watch it in either 720p or 1080i, which is, by the way, if you're watching anything on a local channel, like your local Fox affiliate or CBS affiliate, it's not 1080p. It's 720 or 1080i, which is the same thing.
You mean through an antenna or cable?
Either or. The local television is not, very, very few channels are in 1080p.
Okay.
They're in 720 or 1080i. That's either whether you're streaming it on YouTube TV, watching it through a cable provider like Spectrum or something like, or an antenna. Um, it was it's still a very enjoyable experience in 1080. However, it looked pretty good in 4K.
Nice.
Okay. So I finally know what WOLED is.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten to the quantum yet.
Well, that's the old.
So yeah. So WOLED is basically what's called OLED up until now, which is white OLED or white background OLED, white light OLED, something like that. And the new technology is the QD OLED, and it has to do with the construction of the pixels. If with LCD, there is light emitting from the background going through some sort of filter, the LCD display, which shifts the colors, and the light emitted through it produces the color. With QLED, pixels themselves, they're bunched together very, very closely, right? The different colors, and and they produce light by themselves. There's no backlight. With WOLED, there is there's an additional pixel. So there's RGB, there's red, green, and blue, but there's an additional pixel that is white. Which controls intensity, sort of. So it's sort of a hybrid solution in order to preserve the colors, because OLED, the different LEDs, blue, green, and red, they burn out at a different rate. And so the white LED component basically helps compensate for that. So that's the old approach. And the new approach is just red, green, and blue with an additional blue emitting layer instead of the white emitting layer, which is supposed to be I don't know, superior probably, or newer, or a better solution, less light bleeding out or something like that. So QD is the new technology. OLED is the old technology. Guessing at this point, both of them are probably just way too expensive still. So we'll see.
What do you mean? So what is in everyday TV today?
LEDs.
That's it.
Not QLED, nothing OLED, just LED.
Okay.
So what's happening today is, these are LCD displays. Just LCD displays. The only difference between that and LCD displays of the beginning of the 2000s is that back in the 2000s, what would provide the background emitting light would be fluorescent bodies.
Just like a laptop. The laptops used to be back then.
Right. Yeah. The way laptop used to be as well. That was LCD displays, right?
Right.
It's just there would be in laptops, the display, the light would come not from the background but from the bottom, and would because it was small enough, a single light bulb or two light bulbs, one at the bottom and one at the top, would do the work, right? LED displays replaced the fluorescent body with LEDs.
Yeah.
And the QLEDs, right, is still LEDs. It's just the smaller LEDs, and I think more distributed around the screen. The OLED does not have that at all. It does not have a lighting body that is separate from the display. what what is happening is that each pixel basically lights itself. That's what's so unique about OLED is you have uh, uh, um, it's an organic compound, I think, that once it gets electricity through it, right, it it shines in its color. So and it's like you can do it on a very very small scale, and so you can bunch all of the colors together, right? And and by lighting enough of them, you get a display that is very vivid. The difference is when there is nothing sent to a diode like that, then it's pitch black.
Yes.
Does not emit any light, right? So that's one. And the other thing is because there's no background lighting, it allows for even thinner displays. So it is a superior to LED, but it is very expensive. And uh, its shelf life is shorter because these LEDs they burn out, right? And once it burns out, this is not a light fixture that you replace. This is a pixel that, that that's gone bad. So so when it comes to small displays, OLED is superior to any other solution. Phones up to certain sizes, phenomenal for that because there's also a huge energy consumption um, improvement when you use a black background, for example, like a completely black background, gray but completely black. So because you're not even powering right any part of the screen that is.
Let me see if I can show this real quick. This is an example of what the difference in technology is between LCD, LED, and OLED. And as Gal noted, the biggest thing is the backlight. So there's always a backlight. So even when you're looking at a pitch black sky on an LCD, it's gray. It's
Right.
kind of like a muddy gray. If you're looking at black on an OLED, it is literally black. The pixels are off. I mean, it's just it is the truest form of black that you can get. So that's why you see scenes on OLEDs versus LCDs, like a skyline or something like that. The difference between the lit up building and the black sky behind it is a huge contrast in comparison to what you would see on an LCD or an LED, where it's kind of like a muddy, might even be a kind of like a noisy gray, because you still have, even with black pixels, you still have that light bleeding um through the whatever you call it, the filter.
Right, right. Now, let's not say a huge uh, difference, right? But there are those who notice it, and there are those who don't care, right? But
Sure.
there's definitely a difference. Now, uh, WOLED is is basically um, sort of LCD, just very very thin, and I think um, this is what Samsung was marketing as QLED, by the way. I'm not sure because I haven't read everything through it. Anyway, QD OLED is the OLED everybody has been waiting for and talking about, and the superior technology and all that. And WOLED is sort of a very thin LED display from before, something like that. So yeah, it's a marketing frenzy, but it's never about the technology. There looks like they're competing in the same marketplace with um, different types of products, right? And they're trying to badmouth each other. Uh, And if you are, let's put it this way, if you are in the market for a OLED TV, then do your research and don't ask the salesman that in front of the TV that you do not know who gave him the incentive to sell you the TV. That's all. The reason I'm saying it about specifically about OLED is because it's just very expensive. These are not cheap TVs. These are not the TVs in $350 that we're showing in specials, right?
How dare you?
No.
Yeah. So no, I mean they're usually 1,000 and above, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so yeah, do your research and don't just buy into a sticker that might cause you to pay $1,000, but you're getting something that you didn't want, right? So,
Here is a LG OLED 65-inch television on Amazon. It's $1,200 and it's on sale. Um, that's kind of the price point that you're in for these things. But they're, as Gal noted, that's in fact the TV. As thin as that is, that's where all the power stuff is happening. But the rest of that is the screen. It's so incredibly thin.
yeah, it's not just the power; it's usually power and some sort of speaker, right? So
Speaker,
that,
the
that's
AV
still
inputs.
not thin. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what you're looking at with OLEDs and QLEDs and whatever other OLED technology. LG and Samsung, I think, are the main two. Sony too. Those three are the ones that are in this space, because for I'll call them the bargain TV brands, your Insignias, your Vizios, it's the TVs are
Those
now.
are
I
LCD.
think Vizio does make some OLED stuff, but it's way out of the scale of their normal price of televisions.
Yeah, they buy the panel from I think
From Samsung.
Samsung.
Yeah.
Then I'm not sure that that's even OLED. I think I think the only ones who had a functioning OLED, like real OLED technology, was LG for the longest time. There's something about the blue component that is really hard to manufacture, apparently. I think OLED technology came to realization around 2002, and it took them about 10 to 13 years to perfect the blue component, because that part like dies out really fast, and especially when it's exposed to sunlight, right? And they started with small devices that do get exposed to sunlight. So yeah, there's all of that, but yeah. This is sort of VHS and Betamax all over again, right? Just in a different form, and
So which one
it's
does
not going away.
which one does porn look better on? Wasn't that the big decider for VHS versus Betamax?
I don't think it's what porn was looking better. I think it's what porn was just shipping out in.
Well,
yeah.
aside, that is literally the reason that one of the major reasons that VHS took on as a format.
Yeah, I remember some of it. Yeah,
I watched I'll tell you what, man, there are some people on YouTube that are making documentary, probably not the right word to use for it, but there are these really long in depth, not really long, 45-minute to an hour long videos that go through some of these things. And it's better than anything that you're seeing on television. And they're on everything from, the beginning of the telegraph network to the cell phone network to different kinds of media, Betamax, VHS, the internet. It's just, there's these guys that are making this content, and it's just so fascinating. You get in this rabbit hole of watching an hour and a half video on some piece of technology that you know nothing or care nothing about. But the history on it is so fascinating. We're in a golden era of content right now with some of this stuff.
So yeah, in the early days, like with laptops, suddenly you said, I can't see anything.
The backlight died. Yeah,
Yeah, the backlight died. And
that's a more of an LCD problem than an
right.
LED problem.
That's a fluorescent.
Correct.
That's a
Yeah, because a
fluorescent.
single lighting body,
Yeah,
right, just went out.
right.
So
Yeah.
And I used to tell customers who say, well, my computer will not come up. I mean, I see the hard drive flashing and I would say, take a flashlight and shine it sideways on the screen and see if you can
I
see anything back. Oh yeah, I can see something. I said, yeah, it's gone. So now
yeah.
we still have a 42-inch old TV. And the way that it works there, I mean, suddenly there were like two darker spots
Yep.
Yeah.
on
Two
the screen.
stripes.
Yeah. And I did not understand how it works. I said, so, but I was reading it and say, yeah, you can fix it.
Mhm.
Well, yes, you can fix it. We never fixed it, but I went and I found the kit. And as you can see, here's how wide it is.
Yeah.
And they connect at the very ends, one to the other. So what you have is each one of these things that you see, each one of the bumps is is an LED with a lens that disperses the light, makes it go. I mean, it's like the
It's a diffuser kind of.
diffuser. That's the word I was
Yeah.
looking for. And they go one under the other, but not one next to the other. It will form. I mean, if you see how uh how far apart they are, so when they're like that, the next strip will be about that far down. So it will create a square. So you have this, and then another one here, and another one down farther and down farther. So when one goes out, the light from the surrounding ones still kind of give it a little bit, but you can see that there is a dark uh, spot. It's not completely lit. It's like you have a big room that has 100-watt light bulbs above at a certain order, and then there's one part of the room is darker a little bit, and you look up, and yeah, that particular light is out. Needless to say, this is brand new. A couple of years. Never got I mean, I did take the TV apart and seeing what was there. It was actually I got the actual individual LEDs, and they're glued in there. I tried that, and the minute that crazy glue goes on that lens, it completely destroys it. And I put it back together, and it wasn't good. I mean, you could still see spots, but it worked. So you just give up. That kit, I think, was $30 some or $40 some. I can't remember for that particular TV. It was a good educational expense to see. Okay, so that's how it works. So that's the thing that Nick was showing in the beginning, that the light comes from behind. In front of this, there is the LCD, and then it shines it through and it shows you. And that's what happens in the laptop. Only the older laptops and the older TVs too. This, if you have this, that means it's LED background light.
Right. That's what's called LED TVs today.
Yeah.
It's LED LCD.
Correct. That's the LEDs is just the background.
Yeah.
And the same thing was with
By the way,
laptops.
QLED is exactly the same.
It is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so
OLED
WOL.
is a completely new compound.
Right. So
QLED was a marketing
okay.
sticker Samsung invented when they didn't have OLED.
Okay.
How dare you accuse Samsung of inventing a term, Gal?
I'm just stating facts.
It's funny because I looked up Vizio OLED, and you were right. They don't make any OLEDs, but they do make QLEDs. That's what they're high brand televisions. This one's $900, and it's a 75-inch Vizio Quantum Pro QLED.
Mm.
Yeah. So at one point, because when I think when Samsung came out with the Q, it was literally that. It was like a marketing ploy because the O they even fashioned the Q to look like an O with a small right, and that and the Q's tail there was so like unobtrusive to that O that it'll look like an OLED, right? Uh, and I think it took years until the term quantum just took over that Q.
Talk, Nick, so
Because
it will
otherwise
show
This
it.
sorry, this is what the marketing looks like. So yeah, it's a Q, but you glance at it quickly, it's not very obvious that
Yeah.
it's a Q.
So I
Mm.
think what happened next was that somehow the market came up with the idea of using quantum,
Mhm.
and so
It's a good word.
now everybody's doing quantum LEDs, right? And so they are sipping into the market that Samsung created with QLED. But these are still LED TVs, LED background TVs, regular LCD, LED background, right?
Hmm.
And so now I'm guessing Samsung finally figured out how to create actual LED displays, and that is what they're calling QD OLED. Yeah, that is definitely not going to uncomplicate things.
All right.
Uh, yeah. I think Sony doesn't make their own panels either. By the way,
I don't
I
think.
think you're right. I think LG makes all of them.
Yeah.
I
yeah,
think
I
that's
think
what it is.
up until now it's just LG that were able to create OLED. They own the patent. I think they own the patent for that blue uh, uh, component, and
Gotcha.
so that's how they control the OLED market.
No, that was a nice, quick lesson about LEDs and how the TVs that we're taking for granted every day we're watching. Um, and even with the new TV these days, if you will power it up with a black screen, like there's nothing coming in as far as signal, you will see that it's on because there will be some areas that are
It's gray.
Uh,
well,
it becomes sort of gray.
Yeah, it's gray.
but
It's not.
if you
It's
adjust,
different than it's pitch black when it's completely off.
yeah, right, but I mean even our new TV, when you turn it on, I mean the TV is on all the time, so to speak. You turn on the Roku and you see it coming alive. You see the screen coming alive
Mhm.
because you see some discoloration in different places. It's not solid gray that is perfect in every region. And that's
Mhm.
why it's because of those LED in the background.
Yep.
Because they I guess these are not precision components.
They are precision components.
To
I
a point,
mean,
to a point, yeah.
yeah, they are. Certain kinds of displays, like an all black screen, which I don't know why I mean, no nothing has an all black screen on it. It's not a
Right.
very
Correct. That's
visually
what I'm
appealing
saying.
thing.
It's not
But
important,
one of
but
the things that is making the OLEDs interesting is, and I don't know if we've talked about them on the show before. Samsung is making um, what they call what do they call them? Wallpaper TVs. They're photo frame TVs or something like that, and um, you can put like artwork on them. And
The
because of
frame.
the
You're talking
frame,
about the frame. Yeah.
yeah, where because because there is so much dynamic content contrast with HDR and with the LED technology. Um, if you put a photo up on it, and I think it's Samsung that does it. They have a name for whatever that service that they have. It looks like a piece of art. I mean, unless you really got up next to it and were staring at the individual pixels from across the room, it looks like a static a piece of art.
Yeah. By the way, Wood is selling them on the cheap, which is $1,500 for a 65 inch
That's
TV or something like
I'm
that.
looking at that. I was looking at that for specials this morning.
Yeah. And the reason these are priced so high are two reasons. One is this is a display that will never shut down. So the quality control on these components needs to be very, very high, right? If a TV works, I don't know, 6 to 8 hours a day showing content, this is designed to show static images, right, for extended period of time. So you do not want burn-in on the pixels. You want very, very stable colors. Um, and it also has dynamic lighting based on the ambient lighting in the room. And so those are different than when you watch TV, which the lighting from the background is pretty constant, right? It does depend on the picture, but it doesn't depend on external factors. So these panels are very expensive to make, and so I'm guessing they're making a killing on it anyway, right? But they're very expensive to make, and so they're marked a lot more
mm,
expensive. Uh, yeah, I bought a photo frame a few years ago for it's like a 19-inch display, I think, for $250, which was a killing back then. It was like half the price. Not Samsung, different brand. And that's when I went into this rabbit hole, trying to understand why are these panels so expensive. We show family photos on them on the wall, right? We didn't subscribe, but what they do is just like Samsung, and I think LG has their own, by the way, as well. Uh, they have a subscription where you get curated art was licensed by whoever has the rights and all that to uh, uh, to see actual art on your wall. So if you want a Van Gogh from you know a restored Van Gogh from some museum, if you have the subscription, you can get that, etc. Yeah.
all right. Nick, you ready for specials?
I am.
Okay.
All right. Well, it's St. Patrick's Day, and this image comes to us generated from Copilot. I asked it to generate me a St. Patrick's Day themed computer, and
Ah,
this was the result. I'd say, outside of a couple of little wonky things on the keyboard and the fact that the mouse is on the left hand side, which is very weird.
mhm.
Very few, even left handed people, use a mouse on the left hand side of the thing. Um, this is what the result was. I'd say pretty good, right?
Yeah.
So there we go. Specials was tough this morning. There just was just not really a whole lot of stuff on sale. So it's kind of it's a small list with a couple of odd things in it. Um, Starting off, however, is over at B&H Photo. This is an Acer 15.6-inch Aspire 3. The fact that it's 15.6-inch means that it does have a full numpad on it, as you can see. So it's a thin numpad, but it still has a numpad on the keyboard as well, and a pretty large trackpad. This is available over at B&H Photo for $279. You're saving $120 on that. In terms of specs, it's got a 12th gen Core i3 processor, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and a 256 gigabyte NVMe drive. It's I don't know that I would call this thing thin. It's not bulky by any stretch, but it's definitely not the thinnest computer in the world. It does have, in terms of ports, a couple of full-size USB-A and an HDMI port and things on it. So it's got a little bit of a heft to it, but you can check this out over at B&H for $279. Next up, this is just a regular LED television, contrary to all the conversations we were just having. This is an Insignia, which is Best Buy's brand, which is also sold on Amazon, by the way, which I did not realize until this morning. So you can pick this up either at Best Buy, free shipping and handling, or in store, or buy it from Amazon. It's a 4K UHD television. It does have HDR10, so it does support high dynamic range if you're watching 4K content that supports HDR. 60 hertz, so just your regular standard refresh rate for a television. It does support ARC for audio and eARC for audio, so you can connect a sound bar. 58-inch television, a couple of HDMI ports on it, nothing crazy. It's on sale for $269. You're saving $110 on that, available at Best Buy or at Amazon. This is a really good deal on an Apple iPad. This price isn't unheard of, but typically this price comes from what I'll call maybe not name brand retailers that are selling it, but this is actually being sold by Best Buy. So this is a 10.2-inch 9th generation iPad. This is the 64 gigabyte model in space gray that is on sale for $249 over at Best Buy. You can either pick this up in store or get it shipped to you, and that is $80 off over at Best Buy. But this was kind of a neat device. It is a refurb, so be mindful of that. That's why it's so cheap. Swann, SWANN. This is a not a wireless camera. You do have to wire this thing in, and it is a 1080p waterproof motion activated camera. And Swann is one of the Swann, like Blink or one of these other companies. They have their whole ecosystem, their apps, and their various cameras. But you get a 2,400 lumen floodlight, which is very bright in terms of that. Plus the 1080p camera and the fact that it's wired. You don't have to deal with as much of the battery life stuff. So maybe you replace one of your outdoor lights with this. It's on sale for $44, again, refurbished through Woot, which is Amazon's wholesale side of the Amazon company. So you can check that out in the specials link there from Swann and Woot. Next up, this is a big boy. This is a 24,000 milliamp hour charger. So this thing will charge in terms of devices and things that it'll do. You can get about 5 charges out of an iPhone in it. You can get nearly a charge and a half for a MacBook Air out of it. This is a very high capacity battery. It's also large and weighs a couple of pounds as well. And one of the cool things about this is it does have a display on it. So a lot of these battery packs, they have like 3 or 4 LEDs, little single color LEDs that show you the battery percentage. It's not very precise. It's 100, 75, 50, 25, and dead. So this has got a full display on it. It'll show you power output and things like that. And it does support up to 140 watts worth of charging, which is perfect for a laptop. This is normally $150. You can get it for $90, available over at Amazon. Next up, this is a kind of an interesting product. So this thing plugs into a regular 120 volt outlet. So it's just a standard 2 or 3 prong charger. And the ports that you get on this are kind of interesting. You get a 45 watt USB-C, but then the rest of the ports are USB type A. So this would be great for charging maybe you have a laptop, and then maybe you've got AirPods, an Apple Watch, or a couple of other things. This would be great for your maybe your bedside table where you charge your devices at night. And this is on sale for $29. It's normally $50, and again, that's available over at Amazon. And that's an Anchor product. We we know how we know the brand and track
Yeah.
record of Anchor. They make a lot of really great products. So this is available from them. And then finally, I thought I'd throw this in here as spring makes its way forward, and folks might be sick of dealing with their old two-stroke lawnmower. The carburetor's constantly gummed up and ready to switch to something else. Ego Power. This is a 56 volt self-propelled lawnmower. So it's an electric lawnmower. There's a couple of companies that are making these. Ego is one of them. I believe they sell at Lowe's, but you can also get this on Amazon. This is normally about close to $1,200, all said and done. You get 2 batteries with it, and it's on sale for $750. By the way, looking at the Amazon deal on this, this is the number. So in Amazon, walk behind lawnmowers, not electric walk behind lawnmowers, but walk behind lawnmowers. This is the #1 bestseller for this on Amazon. It's got a whole bunch of reviews on it. I think Ego, they do a lot of traditional media advertising. They're really trying to break into this space. You got about 75 minutes of runtime and things of that nature with it. It's got lights and a whole bunch of cool stuff on it. So if you're in the market for a new lawnmower and maybe you want to dip your toe into some electric stuff and not wanting to deal with gas and things of that nature, who knows? Take a shot at it. It's available over at Amazon and at Lowe's. And that is specials for this St. Patrick's Day.
Well, thank you, Nick.
Yep.
Good info.
Yeah,
Let's see.
not the greatest list of things
Yeah,
we've ever
but-
had, but all we can do is promote what is available.
24,000 million. 24,
1,000 milliamps. Yeah.
24K. 24 amps. 24 amps.
No, not 24 amps.
240 amps. That's right.
No,
How many?
neither of those things.
2.4?
I'm confused as to what you're asking me.
24,000 milliamps translates to
Okay. Yes, but I do want to note that you're not going to be able to draw
no.
25 amp or 24
Right.
amps out of this thing. It will
Right.
explode and kill you. And
Right.
if you were able to draw 24 amps out of it, yeah, MHA is milliamp hours. That's kind of the standard that they use for portable chargers. Yeah,
Capacity.
sorry, capacity. Yeah, it's not it's not
Right.
If you say 24 amps, that's a lot of power. That's
yeah.
a lot more than most of the breakers in your house, which are probably 15s. So definitely not.
Yeah. All right. You were talking about Apple pricing and where they're selling them. So guess what? In a press release last week, Walmart said that it is now selling the base model M1 MacBook Air online and in selected stores for $699. The move comes a week after Apple introduced the new M3 MacBook Air, and stopped selling the M1 MacBook Air itself. While Walmart has historically sold Apple devices like the iPhone, iPad, and Apple Watch, it has never sold Macs directly. Instead, it's relied on third party partners to sell the Mac through its online marketplace. So now they're selling, if you want to get the older MacBook Air with the M1, you can buy it at Walmart's stores. They are not selling it through Apple anymore. I guess that's good for Walmart.
I mean, M1s are interesting machines.
Yeah, but they are the first
Yeah, the first generation was actually
generation
good.
that Apple is trying to do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're not trying, they've succeeded.
Yep.
M1 was a
Yep.
success, by the way. M2 was meh. Like,
Like,
like
meh.
it didn't, the improvement wasn't meaningful, or there were even aspects of it where I think performance was degraded, or power consumption was not as good. So if you can get your hands on an M1 and it's cheaper, right, than what it used to go for, yeah, I mean, go for
Yep.
it. It can work well as a home server. Keep in mind though, right, because it is a different architecture. This is not ARM and this is not Intel.
Right. It's
So yeah, so it might take some work in order to get whatever you want to run on it, right, as a server. So just just keep in mind. But yeah, they're supposed to be good machines. The hardware is good.
all right. And interesting. The FCC passed new rules that will require cable and satellite providers to clearly disclose the all in, quote unquote, price of subscriptions and promotional materials. The advertised price for a service should be the price you pay when your bill arrives, FCC chairwoman said. It shouldn't include a bunch of unexpected junk fees that are separate from the top line price you were told when you signed up. So that's nice. I think the only one that does it today like that is Google Fiber. I don't know.
Maybe.
Everybody else has all kind of things added, but
Give
Yeah.
give YouTube credit as well.
when
Their
they
pricing is for YouTube TV, which I know they're not a traditional cable or satellite provider, but
yeah.
it's like $74.99 a month, and it's $74.99 a month. It's not, there's no other bullshit
Oh,
added on top of it.
nice.
It's just,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
The
Yep.
streaming services tend to be pretty good with that stuff. Because there's not really a way, there's no hardware, there's no
Right.
service delivery fee, there's not installing anything in your house. So it would be very hard for them to say, oh, it's $74.99, and then here's a fee for this and a fee for that. It doesn't work as it doesn't really work in regards to that.
Yep.
I would uh I would recommend, right, now that almost any business place shows their pricing on displays, on electronic displays, all of the prices should include taxes everywhere anyway,
Yeah, the
right?
bottom line.
The- Yeah, come on.
Yep.
The fact that me as a consumer, fact that you as the business, you're not paying the tax, but me as a consumer, I'm paying the tax, doesn't mean that I cannot get a clear assessment of how much it's going to cost me until I get to the register. Right?
Yeah.
If you're showing me a price, show me the price
Yep.
after
Show me
taxes.
the
Why do I need to
price.
calculate it every time?
And
Mc-
go ahead.
No,
Oh,
sorry, I was
and
clearing my throat.
Looks like the FCC is busy. It also voted to raise its
Let's see. I have the notes in front of me
sorry.
here. Uh,
To raise internet speed benchmarks for the first time since January 2015,
wow.
concluding that modern broadband service should provide at least 100 megabits down and 20 megabits up speeds.
Yeah,
So
fair enough.
I don't think that, I mean, obviously it's good that they're changing that, but I don't know of any outside of maybe a small regional DOCSIS cable provider. I don't know that anybody is selling plans that are lower than that
Well,
or not making plans
many
available, not making plans available lower than that.
you still have, right, DSL deals that are what, between
Well,
3 and 12 megabits, and they're called broadband.
okay, that's the
And I think
problem.
that's what they're trying to
Yeah,
kick out.
you can't call it broadband
Right.
if it doesn't have 100 down.
Well, let's see what the old definition
So
was.
that's the thing.
Broadband definition.
I think. It
So
was
the old
60.
FCC guidelines for broadband was at least 25 megabits down and 3 megabits up. So that even would be, that's even coming close on DSL because
Yeah.
many of those were 1.5, 2 at the best.
Yeah, back then.
Well, I'm saying both prior to this rule change just this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, in 2013, I we just arrived to the States, so maybe 2014. Just arrived
Did you come
to the
across the
States.
border?
The
No.
southern border,
Well, I came across the border in a flight through the border in JFK. But when I first did broadband with Spectrum, which was what was available, and I started too expensive. I started too high. Like I took, I think, an $80 a month deal or something like that. And then I realized I do not need that bandwidth, and I wanted to get it lower to a bill of $50 a month, and I couldn't do that, right? Because you cannot at that time anyway, you couldn't downgrade a promotion because when you sign up, it's a promotion, right? And so I asked, okay, so if I disconnect, when do I get the option for a promotion back? They said you gotta have 3 months apart.
Mm.
So I said okay, and I contacted AT&T. At that time, they only had DSL, and I was looking, and theoretically, I could have gotten 12 megabits, right? Practically, when I got the equipment and tested it all out, the maximum was 3 megabits. And the bill was broadband. So this is 10 years ago. So I'm guessing this is the second time they're updating it, because back then that 3 was still considered broadband.
Okay. And today you're
So this is what it was. In 1996, the definition of broadband was 200K by 200K.
Yeah,
That
makes
was
sense.
that was broadband. In 2010, it was 4 by 1, which would have fit your bill and your definition
Yeah.
of what you got. In
Yeah.
2015, it went to 25 by 3, and now it's 100 by 25. So, yeah, I guess in 2010, 4 by 1, I guess it's not fast, but it you still had a lot of people that did not have DSL was still very, very prominent in 2010 in a lot of areas. So it's amazing though that it went from up until 2009, broadband still would have been, if somebody was providing you dial up, it still would have been considered broadband as long as you were getting
Exactly.
200K back and forth. That's pretty
Exactly.
wild.
No.
From 200K to 4 megabits is, I don't even know the math on that. It's incalculable practically. Just how big of an increase in up that. What's that? 16 times, I think, is what that would be, from 200K to 4 megabits. And then in just 5 years from 4 megabits to 25 megabits. But I think every cable provider now is offering at least 100 by 20 or 20. What is it? 100 by 20?
In urban locations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they're not
The moment
required
you're
to do
dealing
it
with
all over.
with rural areas, then you're stuck with whatever they can get away with.
Mm-hmm.
But even in rural areas, they've done specifically Spectrum. Now, the reason that they've been doing this is because they're getting a whole bunch of money from the federal government to do it. It's got nothing to do with them being, oh, the kindness of our
Right.
hearts. They could give a shit what they're providing you. But I think they're at DOCSIS 3 in pretty much everywhere. I mean, I'm sure there's still places where it's not, but for the vast majority of Spectrum customers, it's DOCSIS 3, if not 3.1, which supports speeds up to close to a gigabit down via coax.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what, man, 100 by 20 is a very suitable internet connection.
Oh yeah. For a
I've
lot
had
of
it
people, yeah.
for years.
Yeah. All right. If you have a Roku account,
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
saw this.
go ahead.
You're talking
go
about
with
the
it.
15 million accounts that were compromised?
15,000.
Oh, it was only 15,000?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's not really a lot at all.
Over 15,000 Roku customers were hacked and used to make fraudulent purchases of hardware and streaming subscriptions. According to Blipping Computers, the threat actors were
Hardware
selling
and streaming subscriptions.
purchases of hardware and streaming subscriptions. They used they were selling stolen accounts for as little as 50 cents per account, allowing purchasers to use stored credit cards to make illegal purchases. Now, I don't think I have a credit card with them. I mean, I
I
have
don't.
No, but
I said I don't either.
Yeah.
they prompt you to set it up, right? When you set up the account for the first time, because they
Yeah.
want you to have the convenience of buying through their,
Yeah.
like if
But
if
I
there's
don't
an app on
think
the TV. Yeah, I would never do that, but
right.
a lot of people just put it in. So
What's so surprising about this is this must have been a very small, obscure database, because Roku says they have 80 million active user
Yeah,
accounts.
that's
And if only 15,000 of them, which I'm not is a large number, but compared
hey,
to 80
maybe
million.
those are the 15,000 who actually put their credit cards.
That's what I was going to say. That number's got to be higher than 15,000, right?
I don't know.
And with 80 million user accounts? What's the let's see. Let's pull up a calculator. 80 million.
No, I know it's a drop in the
Divided
bucket, but then
by-
again, when have you seen Roku asking you to pay for something?
The only thing I think was the guide.
The
right?
guide, what do you mean?
The guide, wasn't that a Roku thing? The live TV guide? Or is
No,
that-
that's free.
No, it's not free.
What- For what?
Gal, what is the guide that you can pay monthly, or then you can get this
You're
special
talking about Plex?
That's through Plex.
Oh, that's a Plex. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean,
Yeah.
the amount of the user account breach was 0.018% of their active user base. So I mean, it's a very small number. You know, that's a good point. I'm trying to think of when.
Unless you're
When-
part of that group.
Now you can buy. There are paid apps on Roku. I've never purchased any of them, but there are a couple of apps that are like there's a couple of screensaver and themes that I think cost like a couple bucks, $2 or $3. But I also
I'm
think
guessing
now through Roku,
if you wanna subscribe to some streaming service, like you install Netflix or something, right?
mhm,
It probably allows you to also pay through them,
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
right?
that's
Don't
interesting.
don't don't they have some movies that you have to pay for?
I don't think it's through them though. I don't know if you can buy. I don't know if they actually. I know they have their uh whatever the hell their Roku TV streaming service is, but I don't know that there's anything paid on there. Um, maybe there is.
I don't know.
Yeah, I just thought the very small amount of users in that was odd. Makes me think that this was just an obscure database that was left vulnerable somewhere.
Or they haven't told us the whole story yet.
That's
Right.
also true.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. They said last Friday they said Roku first disclosed the data breach, um, warning that 15,363 customer accounts were hacked in a credential stuffing attack.
Yeah. Now, it does note that the only thing that was leaked was username and password
Hold
combinations.
on, hold on, hold on.
No, it says that
Credential stuffing attack. Okay, so it's not a database. Not that somebody grabbed the database from Roku, but
Yeah, I know what you're going to.
credential
Yep.
stuffing was used to access the Roku account and from there extracting the payment information for each of those accounts. You understand? Credential stuffing is when you're using credentials that exist that you it's for users who use the same password and
Yep.
the same email and password everywhere, right? Then okay, I know that Nick is using something something at Gmail and he always uses his password, blah blah blah, right? Because I got that from a different bridge. And so I'm trying, right, all of these accounts with the passwords that I have for them. And so 15,000 accounts were breached until it was discovered that there is this coordinated attack. And that is where, that's why the number is low. It's because it's not a hack as they were breached, it's a hack as our users were hacked using credential stuff.
This is a direct quote from them. It appears likely that the same username/password combinations had been used as logon information for such third-party services as well as certain individual Roku accounts. As a result, unauthorized actors were able to obtain login information from third-party sources and then use it to access certain individual Roku accounts.
right.
After gaining access, they changed the Roku login information for affected individual accounts and in a limited number of cases attempted to purchase streaming subscriptions. So, yeah, you're right. This
Yeah, they
Roku did nothing wrong here.
they did not get the credit card number. What they
Yeah,
were
because
doing is they were
just buying stuff. Yeah.
buying stuff through the account and they locked out the user.
So what does this mean, Gal? What should people not be doing?
Leaving a credit card and not
Mhm.
go ahead, got it.
Start using a password vault,
All right.
right? And make sure every account has at least different passwords, if not different emails. I know different emails, it's harder to understand and fathom. That's fine. Don't go that way. But definitely use different passwords. And wherever you can, use two-factor authentication.
There you go.
I mean,
And
That's
if
it.
you're looking for a password vault, use the free Bitwarden one. They're phenomenal. They're great. They're good enough. If you're more inclined to be even more secure, make sure you have a DNS name and set up a self-hosted vault. It's not hard to do. It will take probably around an hour of your life to set up, and around, I mean, some domains they can go for $10 a year, right? So, and you can do more than just a password vault for $10 a year. So,
Okay, I've got a kind of a morbid question for you, Gal. um, I was thinking about. I don't know why I was thinking about this the other day. Oh, because I set up a
I
new.
have an answer.
Okay, I
I
set
know
up a new.
exactly what you're thinking.
I got a new computer at work.
Okay.
At work, and I had to relog into my. Gal is a very gracious host of a Bitwarden. So I was logging back in, and I thought to myself, and this might sound, it is morbid. If I was to get hit by a bus today, which is not impossible, um, the one of the advantages of using the same password everywhere would be that if that password was written down and I was to tell a relative or a family member, this is the password I use this is a, if God forbid something happens to me, this is where you can find my password. They could get access to my mortgage, my bank accounts, all of that stuff. That is now impossible with a password vault because I don't even know any of the passwords. They're all randomly generated except for my master password. I'm sure
So
this
you
has
need,
happened. What do you do? What's the solution
Yeah.
for
I
this?
am literally setting this up right now for myself inside Bitwarden.
Okay.
So there are a couple of approaches. The most simple one is Bitwarden has something called emergency access.
Oh, really?
Yes. And with emergency access, you grant trusted contacts read only access to your vault. Now, the way it works is they you send them this you send them this access. Basically, you type in an email, you send it to them, they accept it. There's a whole process of a handshake for the first setup, and then after they've been approved and they are registered as emergency access contacts for you, they can request access. When they request access, an email is sent to you, right, to your account. And if no response is received by a certain amount of days that you set up, it can be 2 days, it can be 7 days, it can be whatever, then they get read only access to your vault. So
Wow.
this is exactly for the case of what happens when you get hit by a bus.
Yes.
Right?
Hmm.
It's like it has a kill switch that certain number of days where you can respond and cancel that access, right? Because if you're okay, you don't want anybody to access it, even though you gave them
Mm-hmm.
permission in something. Uh, so if you say, okay, if I'm out for 7 days, right, then you get access to my content or whatever. So yes,
Interesting.
that exists. That is specifically for that. Another option, when you're using the premium offering from Bitwarden, which by the way you can also get for free by running something called Vault Warden, um, which is what I'm running, is setting up organizations where you have shared access to certain credentials, right? So that also exists, and I am now transitioning from my original vault to like an organization only vault for all of my accounts. I'm doing it because of a technical issue that I'm trying to figure out as well. So I'm doing this some sort of migration, but that can allow you access to certain. So you, let's say me and my wife, we have password vaults, and we're shared inside an organization. I can mark certain logins that are always available to her as well. Let's say our bank accounts, stuff like that. And the good thing about it is whenever I change the password or whenever she changes the password, our vault is just updated all the time, right? We don't need to synchronize something manually and say, hey, copy this. I updated it. We are using a single source of truth. So that's another option.
I knew you'd have an answer for me. Didn't know it was going to be that good of an answer.
Yeah. No, I literally learned about emergency access in Bitwarden this week, so that's
Okay,
why I
perfect.
was like perfect question.
We were on the same wavelength.
All right. Let me see here. Dude, um, McDonald's had
I
This is
love
a tech
McDonald's.
show, Amnon.
a what?
This is a tech show.
McDonald's restaurants are suffering. This was last week. Global IT outage that prevent employees from taking orders and accepting payments.
Yeah, I saw this. This was in Europe.
Yeah, causing some store in Europe and where was it? No, it was in USA, Japan, Australia, Canada, and Netherlands, Italy, New Zealand, and the UK. It started overnight, and they're impacting restaurants globally, which impacted. We are aware, they said we are aware of technology outage, which impacted our restaurants. The issue is now being resolved. That's in a statement to Bleeping Computers. It said, we thank customers for their patience and apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused. Notably, the issue is not related to cybersecurity event, but they were
No,
taking
it's
all.
DNS.
It's DNS, probably.
For sure.
Yeah,
Expired SSL certificate. It's always,
Something like that.
something.
Yeah.
they
On
had
an
to
old domain.
they had to take all the orders manually, and they
Yeah, so
had
this was funny. Yeah.
yeah go.
So you were going up to the register because the kiosks and so by the way, this did affect in the United States, but it happened at approximately midnight Central Daylight Time. So
Mm.
Yeah, it wasn't.
McDonald's, many of those were closed, not even
Yeah,
open. And they got it back up pretty quickly. So that's why it was more of a European thing. But I saw this funny video on Twitter. This was like Tuesday, whatever day it happened. They were literally yelling the orders into the kitchen.
yep.
So like you'd
Just
order
like the old
and then
days.
just like the old days, and they would yell it back into the kitchen. The guy would make it. All the screens with the order numbers and things, all the little beeping sound effects that happen when you order stuff. None of that was happening. It was a kind of an interesting sight, and cash only, because that was the only way that they could take payment.
It's amazing how
Yeah,
we came
they,
how we came to rely on this, and a little bitty glitch.
I mean, that's not surprising in any way. It's just funny every time it happens, but like funny, right? Like ridiculous. But we know we rely on this technology. I mean, think about it. This technology is what allowed them, right, McDonald's, to reduce their counter space. A lot less people are working in the front and taking orders, right? Because people just punch in their cell phone or at the kiosk instead of dealing with a human being. It probably even reduced some friction. I know. Look, I know when I go into a fast food restaurant, any fast food restaurant, I pretty much, even if I know the menu, I am the type of guy who takes time to just decide. Just, the way my mind works. I'm slow in that term. Just decision making takes me time, right? And so standing behind me in line is probably frustrating. When I have these options of kiosk and apps, I can stand in front of this, especially if it's on my phone, as long as I need until everything is the right choice, right? And the order is always perfect and not, oh, I forgot something because it's in front of me and I do it. So I enjoy the technology. But yeah, when it's not there, you you recourse to the old ways, and the old ways worked, right? It's not like they weren't working. It's just there is a different I don't even know if it's more efficient in terms of the human interaction, but it is more productive for the company in the larger scheme. Yeah, and it will still be funny every time that goes out because that's
It's just
a
like a
failure
wake-up call,
point.
kind of. Hey,
It's a failure point that
yep,
is being introduced into the system.
yep,
Every failure point like that, right, will be there.
yep.
It's we can't hide from it.
I wonder what this is going to mean as we go forward. I did a story on my show this week in Oakland, California, because crime is so rampant. There's all of the Taco Bell chains out there. No, they've closed their indoor dining rooms and they're no longer taking cash, so that they're not a target
Target.
for people trying to heist. I wonder how that's going to work in this case when, there's no question about it. There's a huge push to go to a cashless society. If you go to any like sporting venue, they don't even take cash. It's not even an option. And what some of these places have now added machines where you put cash into it and it spits out essentially a prepaid debit card so that you can purchase things that are at those venues. What's going to
Interesting. Yeah.
happen when that happens? They're not going to have any cash on hand to break change. Um,
Well, notice that the problem was order processing, right? Taking the orders. I'm not sure that payment was the problem.
um, they all
So the
it was
cash
orders, but it
register
was
wasn't
also
working,
payment.
but usually they have like this credit card processor terminal that might not work. But you're completely right. That will definitely happen. You remember a couple of years ago, I was in Canada, and when I was in Canada, they had an internet outage. We
Yep.
talked about Rogers. So we went to a mall that day, right? There were no internet at home. We did not know the effect of it yet. And we went to a mall, like one of the largest malls in Toronto there, right? And half of the mall, Bass Pro, was closed. Okay, think about Bass Pro is probably, I don't know, it's like a third of the mall. It's like it's huge, right? It's something, and Bass Pro was closed, right? Half of the mall, half of the stores in the mall had signs on it is due to internet outage. We're not operational, right? And Bass Pro was just completely shut off. The doors were brought down. That's a huge hit to business, right?
Mm-hmm.
If a whole day's of transaction is just lost, that is terrible. But yeah, um, I think what we'll start seeing more and more on the home level, you'll start seeing things like redundancy, like let's get our internet from two ISPs when it becomes really important. Let's say a home that has some sort of emergency system for health, right? Uh, if in the past the requirement will be a landline, remember those for
Yeah.
for
Security systems.
security system, right? Then here you must have two ISP example, right?
You
Well,
know
a
what? I'll
lot
tell
of
you what's going to make this more prominent and a huge market would be for Elon Musk and Starlink. So in cases where there is not two providers available, like I don't know, in a mall, I don't know if there's multiple ISPs or if it's just one company, but getting the mall or these big shops, like you noted, the Bass Pro shops and the big guys, throw a Starlink dish up on the roof, and that's your backup internet connection, and it's relatively inexpensive at $70 a month or whatever, or use that as your primary. The out
Forget
there's
about that. The special from last week, right?
that Netgear modem. Yeah,
Yeah, that Netgear modem was you put a SIM in it, right?
yeah,
And you got cellular backup for your home, right?
yeah.
Which makes total sense. So if you are, especially if you're running a business, Every business will have some sort of backup like that, and it'll become more and more prominent. For now, right, that only happens in either very technical businesses like Amnon's ISP, right? Services. He uses two lines in order to make sure that he always is on. But yeah, today it's becoming simpler and simpler to set it up easily, right? That modem, you plug in your incoming Ethernet from your router, right? And you're plugging it out into your WAN port of your router. So internet flows through that box. And when internet cuts out, when internet isn't available, it just switches to the cellular provider. That's the easiest setup in the world, right?
And
It will cost you a monthly fee, an additional monthly fee. So that's the
yeah,
thing
but
that
it's
like
normally not that much. It's just like right now, um, with the security system, we don't have a landline.
right.
So they installed a quote unquote cell phone on the wall right next to it. It's just a little board.
Yeah.
And it did not change the price.
Yeah, they eat
Because,
that.
Because yeah,
It's there. They eat that. The
yeah.
problem you're going to have with these large retailers, like a McDonald's, for example, they have 40,000 stores across the
exactly,
world.
it's the cost.
Yeah.
You're talking about millions, if tens of millions of dollars potentially a year in both infrastructure and in new expenses. That's where it's going to be really hard for these big box retailers to justify, um, you know, however many backup internet connections and new hardware in all of these places. Because again,
Right, but it'll be
when
a
it does happen,
function.
it sucks, but it's not like it's happening. It's not, doesn't happen frequently enough where it probably makes sense.
Yeah, but the real question is if this is likely to happen once a year, for example, right? What is the cost for them? And if the cost is just too high, then they'll install those
Sure.
redundancies, right? It's as simple as that.
I see even a simpler, more complicated, but simpler. um, as far as I know, all the credit card terminals, even today, have both WAN and phone.
Sure.
So, but not many places have a landline to connect there.
Well, no, most retail does. But
Okay,
you
so
have to remember, most of those systems are proprietary. They're VPOSs. They're not
Yeah.
using they're not using the gray little credit card machine that you put
Right.
the card in and punch into. It's part of some VPOS system that is just based on the internet.
Right. So this way it's automatic. I mean, if there's no internet, you can still pay with your credit card because it will say, "Hey, I don't have that way, so I'm going to connect with the backup."
But how many places have those terminals? That's what I'm saying.
There's still a lot, but but it's yes, you're right. It's not going to solve everybody's
Yeah.
problem. So the places that don't have those, maybe they should have them and just sit there. The other thing
That's an
is
option too. Yeah.
the other thing is for the order. I mean, because really the only thing that they need internet right there is for the payment for the credit card companies to say, yeah, this is okay.
Sure.
As far as the orders, yeah, it's nice for McDonald's to get all the information on live. Oh yeah, somebody just ordered a Big Mac. But if there's no internet, if the internet is down, have a fail-safe that would save all the orders locally on a hard drive.
Oh, I'm sure that is the case.
Well, in
The
that
problem
case, it shouldn't have
the-
stopped. They didn't have to yell it to the back.
Well, here was the problem with it. All of the screens in the restaurant that show the orders and everything, those are all internet connected.
So that's what I mean. So they need to have some kind of a fail-safe that will say, no, you stay up and you get the information, but instead of sending it to
those
me.
are called distributed systems. And yes, that'll happen.
Yeah.
Where each store will be self-sufficient and will synchronize. It's just you need to think about the infrastructure. it makes things more complex.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
you've got IT guys running around fixing hard drives and it's an incredible cost
And
for, again, when you look at these largest places like a McDonald's, it's an incredible cost
and what you were
because of how
talking
many stores they have.
what you were talking about, Nick, as far as like uh Elon Musk's service,
Starlink.
Starlink, the credit card companies should be managing it, but you can have one dish for the whole mall just
Yes.
for charges because that's a zip thing. It's not taking
Yeah,
a
but
lot
here's the problem with that. So now you've got one dish for the whole mall.
Yeah.
Now so how are you now running Ethernet, a specific Ethernet to each shop, connecting it to a second machine as it's too complicated.
Good point. Good
It
point.
doesn't
good point.
work.
Good point.
Um,
Yeah. That's
it'll
right.
be on
By
the
the
it'll
way,
be on the
that mall where half of it wasn't working, the reason the other half was working is because they were connected to the other ISP.
or cellular
Right.
for
No,
credit card
there are two
processing.
large ISPs over there in Canada, and
Okay.
they were just connected to the second one. Right.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, that's the ideal situation. Yeah. And talk about having redundancy and stuff. Um, I was doing this locally for I have Google Fiber and AT&T. So the 18, I mean, that's a lot of expense and I only need it for the studio.
Yeah.
Um, I was doing it with ACP. That's the Affordable Connectivity, whatever, and your own Social Security. All they want to see is your income. And say, oh yeah, you qualify. So that's $30 less than what it's normally cost. Well, that ends in May. Apparently, the federal government did not renew the Affordable Connectivity Act. It's not. It's not being funded. I got an email from AT&T, and they said, "But we also have some kind of plans." And so I need to call them and find out. Okay, how much is it going to be? If it's going to be too expensive, and they're not willing to lower the speed and the price, therefore, then I'm going to do away with it. I'm going to stay with Google Fiber.
Oh, and you could
So-
always look at that the cell phone backup with the little
Yes.
puck.
If
You could always look at
Yeah.
SpaceX. That SpaceX isn't, or SpaceX. Starlink isn't it's not the cheapest thing in the world. But the big time you're dealing with major internet outages outside of a freak tech accident, like a wrong DNS server or an SSL certificate expiring, is during natural disasters where you've got power lines that are snapped because of trees falling or a tornado or something like that. So that's when your cell network or your Starlink connection can really shine, because unless the ingest station for the uplink for Starlink gets damaged, it's probably good. And with the cell phone network, they've got many of those towers have at least two backhaul connections from
Mhm.
different areas. They make a huge round robin ring to keep the cell networks up. So that's the true. I mean, that's the true backup, is something that's wireless, that can't be struck by lightning, hit by a car, or damaged by a tree or something like that.
a bunch of
But you're right. And at what cost? I mean, you're trying to justify it yourself. Imagine if you own 40,000 McDonald's.
right. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's no fun, but
Yeah,
it's also no
it's-
fun to have such outages.
Well, and the question is, to go to Econ 101, what is the opportunity cost of having internet access?
Yeah.
And if you're, say you're in a mall and your store's closed for 4 hours, how many thousands of dollars worth of business are you doing? If it's not that much, then it's probably not worth the backup, because
Absolutely.
it's going to cost you thousands of dollars a year.
Yep. Yep. And if it's not going to affect you that much, then hey,
Yeah. For the
just put up with
smaller
it.
retailers, it's for the you go into a mall and the more mom and pop shops that aren't the big chains, it makes even less sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and one of the other things too, especially for the smaller places, many VPOS systems also support the use of a mobile phone for processing, like
Mm-hmm.
what's it called? Clove, Chive, something like that. It's one of the big, it's the big
Yeah.
white tablet ones. I don't know what that company is called. Um, so having a cell phone, which obviously will have connectivity, and just using the VPOS app on your cell phone is suitable enough for a small business.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. AI. So trust in AI technology and the companies that develop it is dropping in both the US and around the world, according to new data from Edelman shared first with Axios. Globally, trust in AI companies has dropped to 53%, down from 61% 5 years ago. In the US, trust has dropped 15 percent points from 50 to 35 over the same period. Trust in AI is low across political lines. Democrats' trust in AI companies is 38%, independents is 25%, and Republicans 24%. Tech is losing its lead as the most trusted sector. 8 years ago, technology was the leading industry in trust in 90% of the countries Edelman studies. Today, it is the most trusted in only half of the countries. So, and this all is because of the bad actors out there. I mean, people are seeing, I guess, that so many billions of dollars are being lost every year because of technology, and the trust is going down. That doesn't mean that they are not using it. They just
I
say
don't
we
think it's
don't trust
because
it.
of the bad actors as much as because of the negligence
Okay,
allowing
yeah,
bad actors to strive, right?
that's true.
It
Yeah,
really needs to be, um, but yeah, I mean, people are everything that you say at the outro, right?
yeah,
These are things that we people that work within the industry and were interested in the industry, we've been following and saying all those years. Now it's something that every single person is starting to understand. Like cool kids, right? They finally understand that because they've been exposed, they've been affected as well, whether personally or they heard about it. So I understand trust is going down. I'm more interested when they say trust is going down and it's no longer the number one trusted in a country, right? What takes over that compared to are the industries that are trusted more? I think that just stating trust is going down is sounds like
it's a little.
very
It's yeah,
demagogue.
it's
Yeah.
irresponsible, kind of. Yeah,
Yeah, it's that yeah,
but that doesn't
it's
mean.
a
I mean,
clickbait, but
but that doesn't. Like I said, but that doesn't mean that they don't use everything. They
exactly,
just don't
exactly. That's
trust
why
it. But I
I'm
have to use
interested
it.
in the rest of the data.
Yeah,
Something, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, look at the example from just a couple of weeks ago with Gemini. I mean, you talk about we're talking about Google's AI
Mm-hmm,
system and
mm-hmm.
all of the criticisms and issues that it had the second that it launched.
Well,
Um,
AI specifically, yeah. I
yeah,
completely understand where the trust is lost there. Finally, the discussion has become relevant about what does it mean to use those shared AIs. It's completely different when you're using AI and you control the data set that it's feeding on, right?
sure.
Or at least you're using a static data set in a local environment. but it's different when what you are doing, right, is using something that belongs to somebody else. So the whole cloud concept, right, is finally getting the attention it should have gotten when it started.
I'm just noticing here that Bill said that he wanted to call in. I didn't see it before. Now he's running out of time and he's going to call me this afternoon. Bill, when you want to call in, you don't have to ask permission.
Yeah, just call in. I mean,
Call in. Ah, okay. Here's something else about AI. Schools are widely adopting a new tool called Writable that uses ChatGPT to help grade student writing assignments. This is
Right.
also coming from Axios.
Oh, yeah, I gotta pay those teachers more though.
You see, that's the whole thing about it is the Writable, which is billed as a time-saving tool for teachers, was purchased last month by education giant Houghton Mifflin Harcourt,
Yep.
whose materials are used in 90% of K through 12 schools. Teachers use it to run students' essay through ChatGPT, then evaluate the AI generated feedback and return it to the students.
Oh my God.
A teacher gives the class a writing assignment, say, what I did over the summer vacation, and the students send in their work electronically. The teacher submits the essay to Writable, which in turn runs them through ChatGPT. ChatGPT offers comments and observation to the teacher, who is, here's the clincher, supposed to review and tweak them before sending the feedback back to the students.
I'm sure.
Writable tokenizes students' information so that no personally identifying details are submitted to the AI program. Yeah. What do you think teachers are going to do the way that they're getting paid? They're just going to send it back. They're
Well-
not going to look. I mean, here's something supposed to save me time. So, yeah, just send it back.
Well, here's the real
I know,
question. At that point,
jeez.
what the hell's the point of even
I
going to school?
know,
If
I know.
ChatGPT is just going to tell you whether you did a good job or not,
Yeah.
you can do
You
it
can
yourself
run it
and
through your own
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You're
is.
looking at it from the student's point. I'm telling you that those who are going to push back on it are teachers, and the reason I'm saying that is because now there's going to be a centralized system that basically grades the teacher's
teacher.
ability to teach.
That's true too.
Right?
That's good.
Because now
Very
there's
good
an
point.
automatic thing that says your student are failing. And we know it before you even know that your student are failing. So
Never mind.
teachers are not going to like it either. Don't worry about it. It's
No.
just a terrible idea. I'm not saying it's a terrible idea as nothing like this should exist, right? But it doesn't, you cannot push this out of a vacuum and suddenly create something and say and expect it to be accepted. This as a tool, it can be helpful, but the context in which you're pushing the tool in right now is completely wrong, and it's too early.
Everybody's trying to jump on this
The rest of the infrastructure isn't ready for that.
Yeah. I mean, for a school to say, hey, we're using AI. Well, they think it gives them an edge, but it doesn't.
No, it just means, hey, do you want we can offer you the mediocre equivalent of education, right? Where even our teachers do not need to think. And so don't worry, our students will not need to think either, right? It's like the whole premise of school. But that shows exactly the problem with the school system, right? That it is not about creating curious minds. It is not about creating a generation of thinkers. It is about making the stats. And whenever your focus is on a KPI, on a non index, right, on a non-performance index, that's then you're not going to get anything out of it. You'll just get KPIs being met. You'll get a performance measured in a certain way. But knowledge isn't profit. It's not. You cannot accumulate it in that way. It is so different.
Mm.
But that's the system, and so AI makes sense there for them, and that's a sad thing. Want to talk about loss of trust? Continue using it that way.
And people will continue using it that way.
Systems will use it
Systems,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yep. All right. It's this time of day. Anything else anybody wants to add?
No, I got to drop off anyway. So good time.
Don't drop. Just stand up and walk away, normally. Nick, anything?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. So thanks. Thanks again. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Gal. Spence, if you're listening, drive safely. And I sure hope, we hope that Katie is having a lot of success at the conference she's in. Good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie and Donna, Dina, Mati, Eleanor, Sarid, Yaakov and Yael. Thanks, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drive, update your virus scanner, and change any same passwords wherever you use them. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. And remember, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., Nick Eastern. Nick is on Wilmington's 980 The Wave and 107.9 FM with his daily drive political show. You can tell your Echo device to play 980 The Wave and listen to him live, or you can go later on to nickcraig.com and listen to the recording. And Nick and Brian do a weekly show about survival games, gaming news, and some political points on Twitch. Just go to infectionpodcast.com and see when is the live show, or you can go to infectionpodcast.com and listen to the recording after the fact. This show is on Twitch. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll be with you again next week.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com and DeltaForce.net.